Just Us and Books.
Dr. Stacia and Kayla's office are there. It's a meeting space. Okay. And they
afternoon and welcome to a fabulous Friday. We are here for our weekly read aloud, and today Just Us and Books is at Sherman Phoneix. But not just at Sherman Phoneix, we are at the world famous J.Riley spot. Now, you have to stay tuned to see all this fabulousness that is surrounding me. She does a wonderful job with creating such cool items made of yarn. And so, as you can see, this cool hat, these fantastic earrings that I'm wearing, all created by J.Riley. So stay tuned to see how beautiful her shop is. So, of course, I had to read a book that was appropriate for this auspicious occasion. The name of our story is called Extra Yarn. Extra Yarn. Perfect, isn't it? And the name, and our author, is Mac Barnett. Extra Yarn. Here we go. On a cold afternoon in a cold little town where everywhere you looked was either the white of snow or the black of soot from chimneys, Annabelle found a box filled with yarn of every color. So she went home and knit herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she had some extra yarn. So she knit a sweater for Mars too, but there was still extra yarn. And when Annabelle and Mars went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed and said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. Uh-oh. But it turned out he was. And even after she made a sweater for Nate and his dog and for herself and for Mars, she still had extra yarn. At school, Annabelle's classmate could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet," shouted Mr. Norman. "Quiet, everyone. Annabelle, that sweater of yours is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around to look at you." "Then I'll knit everyone a sweater," Annabelle said, "so they won't have to turn around." "Impossible," said Mr. Norman. "You can't." But it turned out she could, and she did. Even for Mr. Norman. And when she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. So she knit sweaters for her mom and dad, and for Mr. Pendleton, and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and for little Louis. She made sweaters for everyone except Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even long pants, and who would stand in his shorts with the snow up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks," said Mr. Crabtree. So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat. And even then, Annabelle still had extra yarn. She made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats and for other animals too. Soon people thought, soon Annabelle will run out of yarn. But it turned out she didn't. So Annabelle made sweaters for things that didn't even wear sweaters. Look at how the houses and the mailboxes all have sweaters. Things began to change in that little town. The buildings even have sweaters. News spread of this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and people came to visit from around the world to see all the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke who was very fond of clothes sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle. "Little girl," said the archduke, "I would like to buy this miraculous box of yarn, and I am willing to offer you $1 million. "No, thank you," said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for her pickup truck. The archduke's mustache twitched. $2 million, he said. Annabelle shook her head. "No, thanks." $10 million, shouted the archduke. "Take it or leave it." "Leave it," said Annabelle. "I won't sell the yarn." And she didn't. So that night, the archduke hired 3 robbers to break into Annabelle's house, and they stole the box and took it to the archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea. Back to his castle. The archduke put on his favorite song and sat in his best chair. Then he took out the box and he lifted its lid and he looked inside. His mustache quivered, it shivered, it trembled. The archduke hurled the box out the window and shouted, "Little girl, I curse you with my family's curse. You will never be happy again." But, and as you can see, there's that box of yarn floating, floating. All the way back to Annabelle. It turned out she was happy. Look at how Annabelle got her yarn back. The end. Extra yarn. What a fun story. And see how being mean didn't work out for that archduke. All right, so again, please stay tuned and check out this fantastic store that we are in here at Sherman Phoneix, the J.Riley shop. I do hope you enjoyed our read aloud for today. Just Us